Video games are amazing. One of the ways that we were kind of able to connect was Sonic the Hedgehog. I could see what it meant to her. She had to undergo 2 very serious spinal operations. Seeing what she was fighting for her life. He'd given my sister a lifeline and he lost his own life just weeks later. Mega Drive was always the most important console in our household because of Sonic. This is a video that I've been building up to for some time and will include some sensitive content ahead. My older sister has cerebral palsy. She has lived a whole life with it, but she remains one of the most inspiring, caring, polite people that I've ever met and will ever meet. She laughs at the same jokes time and again. She has the time of her life doing simple activities that we may take for granted. For those who don't know, cerebral palsy is basically a name for a group of varying conditions that range in severity and affects coordination and mobility and balance. So basically that can involve delays in developmental stages. You can be a bit too, basically your limbs are too stiff or they're too floppy, your leg will drag sometimes. And as a result, she does have weak arms and legs, so she needs to help that support. That's why she's in a wheelchair for most of the time. She can be fidgety and jerky. Her arm will sometimes just start seizing up, and that's one of the biggest frustrations that she has. And she'll just have sort of random, uncontrolled movements that, that really frustrates her. Her speaking as well, she can hold a conversation where you can talk to her, but like those who are probably speaking to her the first time may not fully understand what she's saying, so we'll take a bit of an adjustment to that. And she will repeat the same things over and over again, so there is some limitation there in what can be expressed. So she's kind of a bit more on the upper end of the spectrum. She has an electric wheelchair now, so she has some independence in that sense, but she does require that full-time care to support her, and she can't live independently. So growing up, I always kind of knew I was kind of a carer to her as well, more so part-time these days. I was aware of what my role would be and what my life would look like from a very young age. One of my earliest core memories, when I was 4 years old, I had a birthday party I really wanted to do. I can't remember exactly what it was, and I remember I couldn't do it because my sister couldn't be involved. And I remember at the time thinking selfishly, why can't I do the thing that I want to do? This is not fair. This is what I want to do for my birthday. It's all I want to do. And I just didn't think how much that would exclude my sister, who just wanted to be there to celebrate my birthday with me and just be there as well to have fun. And one of the ways that we were kind of able to connect was through video games, and that video game was Sonic the Hedgehog. And I think they always knew that you look at the gamepad, there was no real way that she could control that or use that with her mobility issues. And so it ended up eventually coming to the case of, she tried to control it, got frustrated that she couldn't. So I eventually would be the one to kind of take the pad and control the game, and she'd be sat there watching me and kind of guiding me, telling me where to go, and I'd be asking her for advice. Or shall I pick this up? Shall I go here? Shall I do that? Kind of what you see nowadays when people play couch co-op games, and there's one person has the controller and you pass the controller. It's a little bit of that going on. So we were doing that from the very early days of the Mega Drive, right? So basically Sonic 1 was the game, and I remember before we got the Mega Drive, just being in the stores and seeing that trailer on repeat. If you know the one right before you're on the title screen and you see the different levels for a little while, I could remember Sonic's exact movements in those trailers because they were basically the same thing on repeat. I remember exactly what was going to come next on the title screen. I would just stand there in awe of it all, and I think it really just made me want a Mega Drive. And I think that was the beautiful thing, is Sonic was just such a incredible video game. It was such a great poster child for the Mega Drive, and I think my sister was really drawn to obviously the bright blue colors of Sonic and the vivid world of Green Hill Zone, but equally just that cheeky attitude, right? Those big eyes, that cheeky smile, that finger wagging finger, I think she just really laughed at that and really enjoyed that, and it was just trying to find moments in life that made her do that. And obviously TV was a big part of her life growing up, but trying to find ways to an interactive medium, to an outlet, and ways for us as kids to try and do things together as well. It was great because obviously she wouldn't be able to play football, she wouldn't be able to play some of the more physical sports easily anyway. So video games is a great outlet for that, but as mentioned, we didn't have the great accessibility that they do today. And a big shout out to Special Effect, before I continue this, who do amazing work. I wish they existed when we were younger, but they've created some incredible adaptations for people to basically play video games in ways that you would never believe. Like, if you've not looked them up before, if you've not seen them before, please do check them out. Maybe support the charity. If you know someone in your family who's struggling that could benefit from some of these adaptations, get in touch. They're doing such incredible work. Like, there are people controlling video games with their eyes, for goodness sake. It's staggering what they can achieve right now. You know, obviously, and unfortunately in my situation, you know, they didn't exist back then, Mega Drive times, but they do now, and they can really transform people's gaming habits and people's lives. So if you feel like that's something you might need, or if that's something you might be interested in donating to, or just checking out, check out Special Effects. They are truly inspirational, and they're amazing people. We bonded through Sonic. That obviously, like, I mean, just thinking about Sonic to this day, you know, like, I was actually, when I was playing this video, it's like, it's a tough game. The original Sonic's really, really tough. And I think adversely to more modern Sonic games, I actually played it very, very slowly. Because like every little drop, every little fall, like, you could be a hidden spike in there, or a bat could just pop out of nowhere, or, you know, you might just be suddenly drowning in the water. Like, this game was really tough. So obviously it wasn't conducive both to a person who couldn't really control the controller very well, but also kind of frustrating, right? So, you know, I as someone who played it over and over and over again, you know, I got used to the rhythm and the beats and things, and I was able to kind of progress. And actually, when I was replaying this video, I was kind of drawing back to a lot of it. And I always had in my mind, as long as you had one ring, you always had a chance, right? So yes, you may have lost 99 by being hit by a random boulder you didn't see coming, but you still got that one ring, and with that one ring, you're still okay, you're still in the game. And I think that was something that was kind of special and cool about Sonic, is that it really did challenge you, but also there was a fair balance to it, right? And it was different than Mario in that sense. Like, with collecting the coins as Mario were kind of almost meaningless, but with Sonic, those rings were power. They were valuable, they were significant. Like, without those rings, you had nothing. You were vulnerable and weak. And then on top of that, you also had the shields, right? And the invincibility you could pick up, which was great. But by the way, another thing as well, playing those special stages really makes me vertigo. I'm really seasick. They're so fast. But yes, I played Sonic very, very slowly for this video, you know, and I think it's kind of reminiscent of how I played it back then too. Like, wait, those lava sections and those small platforms, and getting out the water and watching up the spikes and the boss battles. It's such a brilliantly designed video game. The level design is stunning. The world is amazing. It was really eye-catching. There was nothing quite like it at the time, and you can see why it is such an iconic hit, and why there was such a grudge between Mario and Sonic, because they were both incredible platformers for very different reasons. But I just find it interesting about Sonic 1, the version of it back then. It's very slow compared to like modern Sonic interpretations like Frontiers and Sonic Mania and, you know, Sonic Superstars and things like that, which is super fast-paced lightning. So for us, obviously, there was that kind of that element of Sonic 1 where I was essentially playing. We tried it maybe again with Sonic 2 with split screens. So again, you know, it's more of a case of, hey, you can play Tails now. And my sister adored Tails. She thought Tails was the bee's knees, as my nan would say. She loved his energy. She loved his style. Obviously bright orange. There was everything about Sonic 2 was just so wonderfully done. Like, I remember the marketing campaign for this was so strong, so eye-catching. You know, everything about it was kind of had this sense of Dr. Robotnik feels more evil now. I love that 2 that they were stood in front of, and like that crunching hand, like that just sticks in my memory. But obviously there was some significant changes as well, like the fact that it was split screen, you had another character now. That was a massive part of it. There were more levels, so it was bigger, and more variety as a result of that, so it's much more vibrant world that was happening around. The spin attack, probably the most iconic and biggest thing. I remember actually when I was playing Sonic 1 for this video again, I was trying to do the spin attack thing. Why can't I do this? Oh wait, this came in Sonic 2. So, you know, that was a big adjustment as well, and it added to the speed of it. It added kind of like more to the automation and the speed, I think, which you could see that's where Sonic games were starting to get faster and faster and faster and faster. The pace was growing and growing, right? So I mean, that was kind of interesting. And yeah, to me, I think Sonic 2 I just have fonder memories of, like, because obviously Sonic 1 is what sold me the Mega Drive. Sonic 2 is what made me the fan of the series, right? And I think, you know, in the sense of trying to get my sister to play it as well. Again, unfortunately, you know, the Mega Drive pad didn't change, the controls didn't really change. So what ended up happening was, you know, my mother would play a bit more then as well. Dad would sometimes jump on. I would just sometimes just do the soda run as well. And my sister would just have fun watching it and laughing at it. She had a weird fascination for the, which I still have triggers and warnings about in my head when you're drowning. And I remember watching her when, like, you know, when that music went, you know, that really tense music, and like, oh my god, so your heart's just pounding in your chest. But she would kind of like, sometimes either really laugh at it, like, what are you laughing at? Or she would get really panicky and she would like get on the edge of a seat, you know, because it's a really tense music. And again, the music is such an important part of Sonic, and music is something that she really loves and connects with a lot. And so, like, you know, you've got the sound effects of Sonic, you know, the whoop, 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 you know, those kind of speed effects, but also the music. So she loved all of that, and obviously the colors going on and everything. So, you know, I think that was just really made her so animated watching play that. And even then, Sonic Spinball, that was a big one as well, because obviously that was a bit more pinball themed. So I thought maybe that was a bit easier for her to control. And actually what we ended up trying to do, you know, like, you have to get Sonic onto the table before you can start playing. We would get him onto the table, and then it would be down to my sister just to press the two buttons, the two flippers, right? So that was actually probably the first time she was really able to interact with the game, and it was just so, I could see what it meant to her, how excited she was by that, and that was just so cool. And, you know, again, you know, obviously, you know, we didn't have Kinects, we didn't have VR, we didn't have motion controls of any sense. Like, in recent years she's played more like Wii Bowling, you know, and Wii Sports, and even Kinect Adventures and games like that, where she can just be a bit more expressive and use her arms to kind of help navigate a little bit and kind of like jump around, you know. And actually with my dad, I've mentioned before, like, he had a real vision for VR at a young age, you know, when I was growing up, and before VR was really able to take off, and before we really understood what that technology was and what it could achieve. One of his goals and visions was to basically have VR chemistry experiments, that basically people who couldn't control it themselves could actually put the headset on, could see the experiment, could actually interact with motion controls through that. And, you know, that would have been a way for my sister to have actually done some basic chemistry experiments that I could take for granted. These experiences really grounded me and made me realize what I could do and what she was not able to do. But the thing that really anchored it was, you know, when I was in my early teens, she had to undergo 2 very serious spinal operations. Basically, my sister's spine was curving. And, you know, it was obviously affecting her mobility to walk. Like, she used to crawl a lot when she was younger. She still kind of crawls a bit now. She kind of defaults to if she goes on the ground, if she's, you know, upset or whatever. But the idea was she needed those spinal surgeries, both life-saving surgeries, because, you know, her spine was growing in an awkward way, but also to try and help with her mobility and try and get some independence back, right? But obviously, yeah, they were very serious surgeries, and they were, you know, they needed to be done. And the surgeon that my sister had, you know, was, you know, he was very good with it, you know, like he was noticeably hard to a lot of people. I remember, you know, in the hospital, how they would say that he's a very hard surgeon. He was, you know, didn't really engage and communicate with people too well, but his patients he was wonderful with. And my sister, he really took under his wing. You know, my sister had a collection of Disney plushies all around her bed, which I think he really liked, and he used to kind of play with those and talk to her about it, which was really nice. But I mean, obviously for me it was difficult. I mean, just on a selfish level, you know, like, I was in school, I changed schools, I mentioned I got bullied in school, you know, I was trying to find ways and outlets to kind of, you know, express myself. You know, obviously my parents' attention was fully on my sister, understandably, of course it would be, but like, as a youngster, sometimes that's hard to process, right? And I think that was the weird thing that I would weigh up sometimes in my head at the time, because, you know, I was going for exams too and things as well, and, you know, I was having my own difficulties. But I think what, you know, seeing my sister in such a vulnerable state, seeing what she was fighting for her life, seeing how the way she would respond to it, inspirational way that she would deal with this horrendous surgery, like, that I hope to goodness none of these people ever watching this video ever have, and I've never had to deal with myself, you know. And seeing the way that she would respond to that, And it just made me feel like, you know, I've got my problems, but you know, it's nothing like this. It's not as terrible and as awful and as hideous as this that she has to deal with. So I had to be there for my family more, and I think that, you know, going through puberty as well, like, you know, again, you know, I was really in a weird time of my emotions. There were challenges there for me too, but I think I came out on the other side of it just feeling more appreciative for life, feeling more appreciative for what I have, feeling more appreciative. I'm glad that she's still with me and I still have my sister. And the weirdest thing about it all is that obviously the surgeon was a dedicated specialist spinal surgeon, right? Within weeks of giving my sister, you know, this life-changing surgery that changed her life and, you know, preserved her life, he passed away from a spinal injury. I know, right? He used to fly planes in his spare time. You know, he was obviously, he's a wealthy surgeon. He owned a plane. It was one of his hobbies. He, not long after doing my sister's surgery, and I'm sure other surgeries as well, took his plane out for a spin. The plane crashed, and he tried to get up and walk away from the crash, saying he's fine. He's a spinal surgeon. He knows he's okay, and he died from his injuries. Sometimes I just think life just gives you these weird situations, these weird moments, and you just don't quite know where to put them or if you can truly believe them. And I know they say it's a cliche, life is stranger than fiction, but sometimes it really truly is. He'd given my sister a lifeline, and he lost his own life by not even adhering to his own advice just weeks later. Life is strange, not the video game. You know, I feel like that's what makes Sonic so important to me, and I think, like, for me, why Mega Drive was always the most important console in our household. And obviously I adore Nintendo, but I think growing up, Sega was very important to me and my family because of Sonic, because of what it meant to that connection of building that relationship and deepening that relationship with my sister and being able to get together. And like, and you know, I think from that point on, even in school, like, there was a unit where my sister used to be part of in my same school. And I used to, like, kind of walk around the playground with her sometimes with her friends that she'd made there. People knew that she was my sister, and you know, like, it helped us bond more, I think. And she really looked up to me, and, you know, I looked up to her. Been through a lot with each other, you know, and I, even now to this day, I'll take her to shows, take her bowling, I'll take her to cinema to watch things. You know, we'll go out for meals, we'll do stuff. You know, we're very much still in each other's lives, and I am so grateful for that. I'm so grateful for that surgeon for giving her life-changing surgery, and I'm so grateful to, you know, what we were able to grow up with and the family unit around us and the support that we had. Video games are amazing. I know we see a lot of negativity around video games sometimes. They're too violent, they're too this, they cause people to do this, that and the other. The thing that they also do are inspiring. They give us friendships, they give us bonds, they give us ways to communicate together, they give us ways to network, to grow together, to find a shared experience and a shared meaning and a shared relationship that maybe some other things are not able to achieve. Sonic the Hedgehog was that for me and my sister, and I'm grateful to Sega. I'm grateful to everyone involved in making that game. It's still being a very much a relevant intellectual property these days that I can still appreciate and love and you know, still enjoy. That was my first video about my sister. As mentioned, it's quite a heavy subject matter, but I'm hoping there's a good resolution for this and there's a good outcome in that, you know, video games did something good for us in this situation. It helped me come to terms with my life, what I needed to do, and how I could help and how I could support and how to be a better person. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening to me just dump this heavy load in this video. I appreciate it. If you know anyone in your family who is going through similar things, feel free to reach out. I'm happy to chat anytime and be a level of support, because I know these things are not easy. They're not easy for people. They're not easy for the person who is affected, and they're not easy for people who try to support. You know, it's difficult. But equally, if you've got your own stories to share about ways you've connected with your family, let me know in the comments. I'd love to talk about it. I'd love to chat to you sometime. But thank you so much as always for your support. It's deeply appreciated. Thank you for watching. Take care.